The John Lebang Show has been known to make people laugh, sing, think, scream, throw things in rage, and generally lose their minds. Listener discretion is advised.
Worldwide and out to the greater universe, you're listening to the John Lebang Show.
Well, the banger went out last night. Did his little time on the town. It wasn't really a time on the town. I had to film a group, and I stuck around to watch the other performers do their thing. And it amazes me every time I go out, and it shouldn't amaze me, it shouldn't surprise me at all, but it does. The group who literally sounded the worst, had the worst musicians of the group, they had the worst stage show of the group, still had the biggest showing of people, and they had the biggest cheers for response. And they weren't good at all. All they did was play tired old cover songs that you've heard every other band out there play. I don't even think they played one original song, and maybe that's why people like them, because they took the low-hanging fruit and they just played stuff that everybody knew, and it really didn't matter that their singer was more of a karaoke artist than an actual rock band singer. In fact, that's how I think she became a singer. She probably was doing karaoke and was like, I can do this. I can sing other people's songs. So the first cover act that was looking for a female vocalist, which is the trend these days. Nothing against female vocalists. Some of my most favorite vocalists in history were female vocalists, but it is a trend. And that seems to be the only thing that interests bands these days. Like, male vocalists aren't in vogue anymore, even though they have a wider variance in style, in sound, in texture of their voice than women do. And it's funny, most of these female rock groups are always backed by guys. Very few are backed by a full band of females, because it's still the guys they need to do the hard work. One, there's probably not enough females to do the gigging, that are picking up guitars and drums and bass and all that. But it's easy to get a bunch of guys to back you up. A bunch of solid musicians. In the case of that band last night, it wasn't very much that case. The musicianship was below par. But they had a big crowd, and I was intrigued and disturbed at the same time. Because the singer, and we'll have to get into that, because this is really getting on my nerves. And that's seeing singers who can't remember lyrics. And then they go out and do gigs, and they have their iPhone or an iPad sitting there with all the lyrics on it, just in case they forget a line. Listen, bands and singers, this is not a cut down on a singer in general, but if your singer doesn't know the parts well enough to sing them without having some kind of reference sheet there, or an iPhone or something that has the notes, the lyrics of the song, you're not ready to gig. And I think it's lazy of a singer to have those at their disposal at a show. Don't tell me, because I can Don't tell me those were your set lists, because I know they weren't. Because you were always, last night, 3 groups had it. 3 groups. 3 out of 4 groups had to have a vocalist who needed a reference sheet for their lyrics because they obviously cannot remember the songs all the way through. Now, if a guitar player was that unprepared, they wouldn't be able to gig. If a drummer was that unprepared, they wouldn't be able to gig. Unless they really don't care. And that might be another thing. That's the problem. And that's why I don't gig very often, because there's not much out there when you're perusing through the available musicians who aren't in an established band right now. And I mean a good established band. There aren't enough musicians floating around to put together great bands. So you've got to settle for this guy and that guy. I mean, that's partially why I don't have a band at the moment. Because I can't find musicians that, it's going to sound pompous of me, but that can't live up to my expectations. Not that they're all that high to live up to. I mean, you show up to practice on time, you're not totally wasted. You know your parts before you get to practice. And you just work through the song, especially in a cover band. See, I've been in cover bands. People didn't even practice at home. They'd listen to the song and then come to practice to rehearse. No! You come to practice to just make sure you're nailing it. So when you go out there in front of people in the public, you don't have a singer who needs a lyric sheet in front of them. You don't have a guitar player who doesn't know their parts. And I'm not talking about an open jam band. You know, the ones at the local bar down the road that has the open jam night and any musician can sit in on any song. And if they screw up, nobody cares. I'm talking about an established band that's trying to make a few bucks or even just trying to perform. That call themselves a band and not a jam band. If you're going to be a band, why don't you take it seriously? And instead of having notes for yourself because you can't remember the lyrics, don't gig or don't use those songs if you don't know them. Leave them out. Don't gig until you're ready. It's that simple. Because it takes away from the stage performance. I mean, if any of these bands even had that. So, as I sit here on my soapbox, thinking about why do bands do this? And the more striking observation was that people were digging the worst band of them all. And that's because they were hitting those low-hanging fruits of songs. Songs everybody knew, so even if you got it wrong, didn't matter, everybody was singing along. And that's what kills me, because I don't understand that. If you're going to do a cover song, if you're going to be a tribute band or a cover band, you either do it right on the money, or you do it your way. But do it good, your way. Don't just play the song because, hey, it's a cool tune, we'll play it. And you try to play it like they do, except you're wrong. And you're just close. No, you're either going to play it right and make it sound right, or you're going to do it your own way and make it sound right. And that annoys me. And that happens a lot in this market anyways. That's why I don't go perusing the bar scenes anymore, because I know what to expect out of the musical acts that are going to be there. If you're not going to put the effort in to know your trade, which your band is, have some respect for your band. Don't go up there, and the singer in particular, and it was the only one with a female vocalist, lead female vocalist. The one band had a drummer that sang as well. They were the one that didn't need the lyric sheets. Go figure. But the one group I'm referring to, not only were they really the worst act of the night with the worst music, the worst there was, what song were they? I can't remember what song they were playing. But it wasn't even close to being good. It sounded like everybody was playing in a different key. So it was all mishmashed. It was noise. And there's the singer reading the lyrics off a popular song on top of that. Of a popular song off her phone. Because she couldn't remember the lyrics to a popular song that you had practiced, I would assume, once or twice or three times. So let me give advice to those bands out there that are just going out there and jamming. Get your stuff together. Practice the stuff until you're perfect at it. If your singer doesn't know their parts, then don't play that song or don't go gig. You can't do it if the drummer doesn't know it. You can't gig if the guitar player doesn't know it. You might be able to fake it if the bass player doesn't know it, but that's BS too. That hurts the entire scene when people go out there and see crappy bands. Now I know this band drew in some people. So another theory comes into play. That's all you need these days. And I've said that many times before, more in a private setting, but I'll say it here. Who cares? All you need to do these days is have a female front singer and you'll bring in the people. Doesn't matter how good they are, as represented by the group last night. The worst group of the night, they had the biggest crowd. You know why that is? Because the chick singer is going to have friends. And then the guys know that the chick singer is going to bring friends, so they're going to show up. You don't always get that with an all-guy act, especially if they're aging a little bit. See, even in that group last night, the guitar player was at an advanced stage, at least as old as I am, if not older. But it didn't matter because you had the chick singer who had a lot of friends. That meant there were chicks there at the show. That means guys were coming to the show. So it's fine that way. Except it shows how little or how easy we are to be drawn into things. Just throw a chick up there, guys. That's worth it. Because that chick's going to give you the time. And the chicks at the show are going to give you the time, right? That's what they think. But if I see another band that has a singer who's so unprepared that they bring an iPad, an iPhone, a lyric sheet with them, I may never go out to another show again. You're ruining it for all the good bands out there. Not to sound like I'm just picking on the groups, but the club we were at decided that a glass bottle of Coca-Cola was worth $4. And a bottle of water was worth $4. So yeah, that diminishes my motivation to go out to the bar scene to watch groups as well. That's right. Because not only do you have to pay a cover charge to get in, which I don't have a problem, bands making a few bucks, but when you get there, and I was told that beer was $7.50. I didn't drink last night. But my Coke was $4. The water I got was $4. So you know what I did? Unfortunately, because it was so expensive, the waitresses don't make any money. You can't tip them as well. If you're robbing me at the at the beverage side of things. And I've had this issue with this nightclub or bar or whatever you want to call it. This little token establishment that has been around for decades. Now, I understand you have to charge a little bit extra for an alcoholic beverage. But anything over $1 for a bottled water at a bar is a ripoff. A Coca-Cola, free advertisement there for Coca-Cola, for more than a couple bucks is a ripoff, and you're stealing tips from your waitresses. And from what I can tell, you can't keep waitresses very long, because every time I go to this establishment, there's someone new working the bar.
Hey, Uncle Shady, where are they going? Hey, you, get back here. The John Lebang Show will be right back. Does your house need a paint job, but you don't want to do it? Then call Tom at Quality One Painting. He can handle all of your interior and exterior painting needs. He gives free estimates and senior discounts. Call Tom at Quality One. 313-982-2986. That's 313-982-2986. Quality One Painting. You're listening to the John Lebang Show.
It's better than an Irish convention.
Now, for many years, I've been an advocate of pulling back the police department when it comes to raiding houses or attacking houses, because I feel that if somebody is inside their home, criminal or not, and as long as they're not hurting somebody inside that home, that there is some level of respect there. And if they were to stay there their whole existence and never leave, that's jail anyways. And it'd be cheaper to pop a cop in a cop car and just have them sit 24 hours and watch them with a little thing than it would be to put them in a penitentiary and to go through the whole court system and anything. So instead of raiding people's houses, I've always thought that, catch them in public or don't catch them at all. Now, with that being said, when somebody invades a house, the police should take great care in making sure that the perpetrators of the house are arrested in a manner that doesn't destroy the innocent people's houses. But that's not what happened recently. You see, police blew up an innocent man's house in the search for an armed shoplifter. Projectiles were still lodged in the walls, glass and wooden panels crumbled on the ground below gaping holes, and inside the family's belongings and furniture appeared trashed in a heap of insulation and drywall. This man, Leo Lech, he rented a home to his son. But now it looks like Al-Qaeda did some kind of damage to it. Osama bin Laden came out of nowhere to blow this house to bits. But it wasn't Osama bin Laden. It was the local police department. This neighborhood crime scene in a suburban home where an armed Walmart shoplifting suspect randomly barricaded himself after fleeing the store on in June of 2015. He was there for 9 hours. He was held up in their bathroom. But the SWAT teams, instead of taking into consideration that this was not the perpetrator's home, he had barricaded himself in the perpetrator, or the perpetrator had barricaded himself in somebody else's home, an innocent bystander's home. This SWAT team decided to fire gas munitions, 40 millimeter rounds through windows, drove an armored vehicle through the door, tossed flash grenades inside, and used explosives to blow out the walls. The suspect, who was captured alive, but the home was completely destroyed. And eventually, can you believe this? Condemned by the city that did it. Nice job. Good job. That left Mr. Leo Lech and his son, John, in quite a predicament. You see, John was living there with his girlfriend and her 9-year-old son. And now they don't have a home at all. Gets better, too. The city refused to compensate the family for their losses. They offered them $5,000 in temporary rental assistance and for the insurance deductible. Now this, of course, pissed the Lenches off, so they tried to sue the city, and just this week, a federal appeals court decided what else the city owes that family for destroying their house more than 4 years ago. And you know what that is? Absolutely nothing. On Tuesday, a 3-judge panel for the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th District unanimously ruled that the city is not required to compensate the family for their lost home because it was destroyed by police while they were trying to enforce the law. So in other words, folks, because this will set precedents, if no other thing does, that if the cops raid your home, wrongly, rightly, for whatever reason, going in there to get somebody else that they thought was there, maybe they're not there, maybe they get the wrong home, it doesn't matter. They can destroy your home and no consequences will be made against the city. And the only people that are going to suffer are the people who live there. Now you've got to love that logic, and you've got to love the government protecting itself. Government's allowed to do whatever it wants, even if it means destroying your home wrongfully. Now again, it might have been quite an inconvenience for the city to just sit cops out there for weeks and days on end until this guy starves himself out. It might have been a little bit of an inconvenience for the family not to be in that home for that time period. But they still would have gotten their house. Eventually, he would have came out because he would have starved himself to death. That's right. But the fair-minded police department, the well-thinking, self-serving government, they don't owe anybody for anything, even though it was purposely done. Now, the subject who they were after, his name was Robert Jonathan Seacat. You know what he was? You know what they were after him for? And what it was worth blowing this house to bits for, ladies and gentlemen? Well, he had stolen a shirt and a couple of belts from Walmart. So you're talking $30, $40 worth of merchandise. 30 or 40 bucks of merchandise. And an innocent family loses their house. The police had no regards for this place. Like I said, they could have starved the guy out. Eventually, he would have came out. Eventually, he would have. They didn't have to get all uppity. But, you know, they had some toys and they wanted to play with it. Complete disregard. And can you imagine the neighbors having to deal with things blowing up right next door to them and all that as well? It's already bad enough that they have a standoff situation, but now the overzealous cops are going, yee-haw, let's play it, buddy. Let's go out and blow up that building because we can. Ain't going to face no repercussions for it. That's for sure. We ain't going to face no repercussions for anything at all. So the police officers pursued this gentleman in a high-speed chase until the gentleman parked his car near a light rail station, hopped a nearby fence that led to the interstate. He then ran across 5 lanes of traffic on foot, climbed the fence to the other side, and then shortly thereafter came upon the residency. Now it gets better. When he got there, that 9-year-old boy I talked about, well, he was there, home, alone at the time. He told police he was watching YouTube videos in his room when he heard the alarm trip. Now, I don't know what the law is in this state, but 9 is borderline on leaving home alone, I believe. Parents, feel free to give us your opinion on that one. Well, the kid freaked out, I'm sure. And the guy, this is what the kid said. The guy said he didn't want to hurt anybody. He just wanted to get away. Because he stole a t-shirt and a couple of belts. Minutes later, he let the boy walk out of the house unharmed. Because he didn't want to hurt the kid. But that wasn't good enough for the police. Oh, no. This guy was dangerous. He was so dangerous that they had to blow up this house. They had to destroy this home to get this guy out, who was unharmed at the time. But, man, they got to get him. A man who stole a belt, or 2 belts, and a shirt. It was worth destroying a house over. And because government always has the back of other government, nobody is liable for the damages at all. Nobody at all. And the people who own this home, who, most of us couldn't afford just a home, just to give it all up and be able to buy a new one because somebody randomly destroyed our house. So these people are screwed. And hopefully, some kind of insurance will come through for them. But can you imagine the insurance company? Why the hell would you want to pay that? And you want to bet the insurance company is going to try to find a way out of that? Well, if the government doesn't have to pay for it, why should the insurance company have to pay for it? They're not liable. If the government's not liable, why should the insurance company be liable? Nope. The people who just lived there, did nothing wrong, watched their house get... Could you imagine if they get home and they see the standoff, right? They're not allowed to go, hey, that's my house. Sorry, fella. We're about ready to go in. There's some guy in there. He stole a t-shirt and a couple belts, and we got to blow him up. That's right. So stand back. No, but that's my house. I'm sorry. You ain't got no rights to your house right now because this is a police exercise. You see, this is police business, and we can do whatever the hell we want. So stand back or you're going to be arrested. Then they go off and do all this stuff to people's houses. Do you think it's right, folks? Because I don't think it's right. And this is why I say the police shouldn't have the ability to just break into a home for any reason. And since this guy, who obviously didn't want the kid in there to be hurt, he just wanted to get away from the cops because he had a shirt and a couple of belts. A shirt and a couple of belts. Yeah. It would have been a hell of a lot less trouble for the cops that were there to take up a collection, pay Walmart for those belts and say, hey, dude, you're probably in bad shape. But we can't let criminals go, and I'm not saying we should. But man, when the police can be this overzealous, when the police can be this blatantly disregarding of your belongings, can you imagine? Anyways, folks, we're going to take another time out. More on the other side of this.
Don't move a muscle.
The John Lebang Show will be right back.
With lots of fun and excitement. Yes! Are you in need of commercial or residential window cleaning? Do you need your office cleaned? Maybe custodial work? How about some gutter cleaning? If you do, then call Pane in the Glass. For a beautiful shine that's crystal clear, call Pane and the Glass. You can find them on Facebook at Pane and the Glass.
Hey, man, it's at the bottom of the hour, man. Do you know where your kids are, man?
If you want to contact the John Lebang Show, feel free to send an email to jlebang@live.com. And if you're on Twitter, look him up at John Lebang. And don't forget to go to his Facebook page at The John Lebang Show. Banger. Now here's John.
Well, have you heard of Erica the Red? You haven't yet? Well, let me tell you about her. You see, Erica, she was a Viking woman. And according to scientists, she might have been one of those warriors, too. Vikings might have actually had female warriors, according to scientists. We're just finding that out, all during the rise of the Mary Sue on top of it. Now thinking of a Viking warrior, you probably imagine some fearsome, muscular, bearded man, a lot like Thor would have been represented in the early Marvel movies before he got neutered. Well, you better think again, folks. Using some cutting-edge facial recognition technology, British scientists have brought to life the battle-hardened face of a fighter who lived more than 1,000 years ago. And she's a woman. And I have to ask this, how do they know she might not have identified as something besides a woman? I'm offended at their insensitivity because she might have identified as a man. That's why she was fighting with the Vikings. So for them to so pigeonhole a woman into the womanhood and call her a she and a woman, she might have identified as a Viking man. Now, as they worked to reconstruct her face for a 21st century audience, scientists found that not only was the woman buried aimed in impressive collection of deadly weaponry, including arrows and swords, a spear, and an axe, she also had suffered a head injury consistent with a sword wound. That's probably why she was dead. Her head was found to have a dent in it serious enough to have damaged bone. Now, whether the wound was the cause of death is unclear, as scientists' examination has revealed signs of healing. So she got beat up by one of the Norse men for trying to identify as a Norse man, and then she was healing from it or something. I don't know. But anyways, scientists believe that this is the first evidence ever found that a Viking woman was injured in battle. But you know what? You go, girl. Maybe we should have a name for this female Thor. What do you say, folks? If you have a name for her, please call in because I'd love to hear them. All right, heading out to the phones for our first call is Boris in Moscow, Michigan.
Yes, multi-time caller. I think you should call her Mary Sue, just because.
Mary Sue.
Because she's a lot like that girl. Was it from Star Wars? Ugly.
Okay, thanks for your call.
Goodbye.
Our next call, listening in on Radio Love in California, Pedro, what do you say?
Hey, man, I think you should call her Padme, man.
You mean like Princess Amidala?
Yeah, man, like from Naboo, man.
I see that. Female Thor. thanks for your call. Our next call coming in from the Outer Rim. Jar Jar, what say you?
Muy, misa bombad.
Okay, thanks for your call. Our next call comes in from Metropolis. Batman, what say you?
Hey, what's up?
Nothing much, Batman.
I think you should call her Martha.
Martha.
Martha, I gotta go.
Okay, thanks for your call. Looks like Batman's a little emotional right now. Our next call comes in from Washington, D.C. Ditzy, you're up next.
Hi, John. I think you should call her Ditzy, John, after me.
Why after you?
She probably had big boobies, John. Okay, I gotta go. Bye.
Okay, thanks for your call. Donald, you're up next on The John Lebang Show.
Just call her Stormy, John, like the sex men.
Don't you mean the X-Men?
All right, I get them confused.
And I think her name is Storm.
Speaking of confused, I think Nancy said something. I better tweet about it.
Okay, sir, thanks for your call. Our last call on this subject comes from Peppa in Chicago, listening in on 24.7 The Stream.
Tell that hoe she be stupid. I said calls her Obama.
Okay, thanks for your call. Now I'd like to pose a question to you. If you could erase your worst memories of your life, would you? Because scientists are working on a pill that would do just that. I don't know about you folks, but I don't think I would partake in that prescription drug. Although I don't partake in any prescription drugs, erasing your memories would be erasing part of yourself, in my opinion, and I'm completely against that. Now in other news with scientists, because there's a lot of scientific news going on, and this one is something that I've always talked about, and it's finally coming out. You see, scientists are baffled. Why are they baffled? Because they don't know what the heck's up with the universe. It's doing things they're not used to, because the further we send satellites out, we're discovering new things. And all the previous thoughts and theories and whatever else are being challenged like they always are in science. I can't ever argue with a person who's strictly based on science, because those people are they're like those religious people. They're so blind. Science, blah, 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 blah. Except when we find something to change our perception of what science is or what we know factually in either physics or whatever. But right up until now, everything is this way in science until they find something that changes that. And that's one of the most fleeting things in the history of the world. And that's scientific basis for things. Because we always push the limits and find new ways in the scientific world to do things. Or how the physics of things work, or how matter does this or whatever. Yet, to all those science geeks out there, it's all written in stone until something says it's not. That's why when they tell us they found a planet 403 light years away that might be just like Earth, and they might have found water on it because they're examining it through a telescope. When we've never been there, they don't know what the heck they're talking about. They don't know if that planet has anything that they are claiming that it has. But, throw out the claim, and when it is rebutted, then you just go, well, we just didn't know. We just didn't know. And that's their excuse for everything. Well, we didn't know yet. That's what discovery's about. Nothing should be written in stone when it comes to science. Because we are only basing our scientific knowledge on what we know from this planet and as far as we've technically stretched into the universe, however far that may be. So when scientists are baffled because they're discovering things don't work as they thought they did, and they're having to rethink everything, like they always have throughout the history. Until they knew of the second law of thermodynamics, they didn't know about it. Which means all of their scientific theories, all of their scientific data, all the truth up until that point was one thing. Remember the flat earth, or the earth was flat at one time, and then it's round. Now people are trying to go back to more flat earth again. So I guess we can't get away from all that. People just don't want to move forward. So I don't know. But the point is that no matter how much proof science has on a certain subject, the more we explore the universe, the longer we exist, the more data we collect, the more ways we find to research things, we're going to prove all of the scientific facts that we know up until this point wrong. So are they really scientific fact, or are they just scientific knowledge that we have up until this point? And we should never, ever, and I don't think all scientists are like this, but the little geeks are like this. Science is everything. Science is everything. Science is always proven wrong, or science always changes. I mean, and technically, science itself is just the study of nature, how nature works. And it's the engineering and the architectures, or the architects and the engineers that are the ones doing the procedures to break through some scientific discoveries. So with that being said, we'll take a break, folks. When we get back, we've got a rounding rendition of The Days of Our Lives. Stay tuned.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
Because the John Lebang Show will be right back.
After this. That's guaranteed. Yes. At Absolute Skin and Body Care, they only use the best laser equipment in the industry so that you receive the best results possible. They'll explain all the procedures in detail and answer all of your questions. Absolute Skin and Body Care. If you're looking for skin rejuvenation, laser lipo, or laser hair removal, call Absolute Skin and Body Care. They're located at 37625 Ann Arbor Road, Suite 105 in Livonia, Michigan. Absolute Skin and Body Care. Their office phone numbers are 248-305-3000. That's 248-305-3000. Absolute Skin and Body Care. You're listening to the John Lebang Show. It's huge. Now I got to tweet about it.
Last week on The Days of Our Lives.
So we are legislating, and yes, we are investigating.
We are looking at a scandal of monumental proportion in this country.
5 core principles of journalism. There is truth and accuracy, independence, fairness, impartiality, humanity, accountability.
I was in an impeachment deposition, but then had to leave that to come to the floor for a vote on the rules for impeachment.
It shows you that they don't really want to get to the truth. They want to remove a sitting president. In fact, the author of the articles of impeachment said, if they don't impeach the president, he will get reelected.
I told my wife, I said, see, it's not so easy.
Now, the continuation.
Well, we had the big week in the political realm, and I know I've held off talking about that till this final segment, but I just am sick of it, actually. But we have to discuss it because it's something we discuss. So Nancy and the Democrats, in a very partisan way, very much like the Obamacare, did a bunch of stuff behind closed doors, and then now we're getting more public impeachment proceedings, which we've been looking into, and it's really, and we'll get into that because we've got so many sound bites for you this week that it's going to take up this rest of the segment. Let's get into some of them sound bites, if we may, because there's a lot. First, we've got Nancy Pelosi admitting they haven't been fair up until this point.
And today we move further down the path in our inquiry by putting forth our procedures, which are very transparent and open, and frankly, more transparent, more open, giving more privileges to the president and his argument than were given in the past. So the argument that they're making on the floor.
More than in the past. Well, that's nice of you, Nancy, isn't it? Here she makes it clear we're not in impeachment.
As the inquiry proceeds, we'll decide whether we'll go forward with impeachment. That decision has not been made.
So all this impeachment, this and impeachment, that, is just a whole lot of smoke. Now here Nancy is trying to sound smart and completely stumbling over her words while doing it.
But here we are, again, our founders, September 17th, 1787. They came forth with a constitution, with genius of which was a separation of powers, 3 co-equal branches of government, balance of power. And when Benjamin Franklin came out, they said, Mr. Franklin, what do we have, a monarchy or a republic? And they said, a republic if we can keep it. And here, right in the here and now, we are keeping the republic.
Isn't that interesting? So Nancy is a constitutional scholar by invoking Benjamin Franklin. But in doing so, she admits we're a republic. She had a little trouble spitting that out. Probably hurt her soul, if she has one. But then later, she says this.
And we're very working hard to defend our democracy.
What is that, Nancy? Are we a republic or are we a democracy? Can you explain, please? Now, here she admits this is a rebellion against the last election. Listen closely.
The times have found us. We feel, all of us, all of you as messengers, as guardians of our democracy, the guardians of the gate of our democracy, as messengers about revealing the facts and the truth to the American people. In fact, the times have found us, as they found, as Thomas Paine said, our founders, to declare independence, to fight a war, to win it, to write our founding documents in a way that made us a republic. Times have found us now to have a republic.
Now, get this BS.
This isn't about anything personal with the president. It isn't about politics. It isn't about patriotism.
It's not about anything to her. Not about nothing personal, nothing at all. They've been trying to impeach Trump since the very beginning, and it has nothing to do with Trump at all. This has to do with the country. Now listen to this reporter ask a good question, and Nancy talks over her to shut her down.
Madam Speaker, Republicans say that this process is not due process for the president. Are these rules really fair, especially if they're requests?
Yes, they are. No, they answered it once. I answered it twice. I'm going to answer it one time. These rules are fairer than anything that have gone before in terms of an impeachment proceeding. I'm not here to answer what the Republicans say.
What she really means is she's not interested in what the people who voted for Trump say. That's what she's saying. Now, here's a montage of the Republican response.
Today, the country just witnessed the only bipartisan vote on that floor was against.
We're at an important point in history. Clearly, there are people that we serve with that don't like the results of the 2016 election. Now, if they really think that they can tell people it's fair, that only the chairman gets to decide who the witnesses are, and they give us an opportunity to call witnesses, but if the chair says they don't like the witnesses don't come forward. They allow the president to have legal counsel in the room unless the chair decides that they don't want the president's legal counsel in the room. That's never happened before.
I want to make sure everybody is focused on a couple of things, and you'll hear from a number of our members here today about this. The first one is that the Democrats cannot fix this process. They've now created a record over the course of the last several weeks with witnesses they selected. We know there were circumstances where Chairman Schiff told witnesses not to answer questions that our members were asking. We know there have been circumstances where our members have attempted to go read transcripts and they've been told by staff members that they're not allowed to go read those transcripts. This is a process that has been fundamentally tainted. The president has had no rights inside these hearings. His counsel has not been able to be present. So for them now to claim that they're suddenly going to open the process up, which, by the way, this resolution does not do.
It is a sad day. It really is for this country. What the Democrats have put our nation through for now almost 4 years. You go back to July of 2016 when they opened an investigation into the president, then candidate Trump, and spied on 2 American citizens associated with the presidential campaign. I bet that has never happened in American history, but that happened in 2016. And all we went through with the whole Mueller thing and now this. They are trying to impeach the President of the United States less than 13 months before an election based on an anonymous whistleblower with no firsthand knowledge who has a bias against the president.
We've witnessed a one-sided investigation in the most secret room in the United States Capitol. Our founding fathers warned about this in the Federalist Papers, that a future Congress at some point in time would base an impeachment not on guilt or innocence, but rather on partisan politics.
For everyone who's pissed about being misled by Adam Schiff and his cohorts hiding in the bunker of the Capitol basement, using you to lie to our constituents, release the darn transcripts. Let's have a conversation about substance. Because I'll tell you what, you lost the conversation about process. You're losing the conversation about process. Bring it on about substance, because our president was right in being concerned about corruption. Our president was right in wanting to look into interference in the 2016 election. And the president of the United States is right to be concerned about a corrupt foreign company run by a corrupt Ukrainian oligarch, hiring the son of the vice president with no energy experience, no Ukraine experience, for at least $50,000 a year, $50,000 a month, and then the vice president of the United States, who was literally the most conflicted person out in the Obama administration to be running point with Ukraine, goes over to Ukraine and threatens the loss of $1 billion if they don't immediately fire the prosecutor who had an open investigation into Burisma and Zlochevsky. And I don't believe that Zlochevsky, Burisma, Joe Biden, Hunter Biden should be immune from scrutiny just because Joe Biden is running for president. And if that's not illegal, it should be illegal.
Did you hear that? Everyone on both sides of the aisle know that something terribly historic is happening. And the Democrats keep pushing for that history to be made, because we have a Civil War scenario getting ready. It's all the pieces are being placed right now, folks. And if something huge doesn't happen to upset the current course this country is on, a lot of trouble's going to happen. I'm certain that the House is going to find a way to impeach the president, legitimately or not. I'm riding with the illegitimate. I think they're going to do whatever they can to get rid of this guy because they didn't like the last election. And because they didn't like the last election, they want to change it. And they really don't like you. But I've said this before, and I'm going to say it one more time. When the House impeaches the president, and then it goes up to the Senate, and it doesn't really matter what they do, but probably they're not going to impeach the president because there's really no evidence to support an impeachment. When you talk to people who are the laymen of the world, they don't even know why they're impeaching. They just don't like Trump. But what happens if Donald Trump says, I'm not leaving? Then what's going to happen? Let's say they impeach him. And then Donald Trump says, no, I'm not leaving. Then what do? Because I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. From that point on, we're looking at Nazi Germany right here in the United States. That's right. Because somebody's going to physically go after the other at that point. And then let's say he is removed. What are the people that voted for him are going to think? Can you answer that for me? Look deep in your soul, ladies and gentlemen. Have you seen these rallies with Donald Trump? Have you seen these rallies? There's a lot of people that are going to feel quite disenfranchised because you stole their candidate 13 months or less by the time all this is done from an election. But that's all they have to do is wait 13 months. If they're so confident that the American people hate Donald Trump, but they aren't. They aren't confident at all. In fact, they see that Donald Trump will win. As the banger has predicted, the Trumpster will win in 2020. So they have to take him out now. Unfortunately, I got to side with the Republicans on here. This is a Soviet-style takeover of the United States. It's a coup. And I'm sure you heard that on your favorite talk show months ago. Yeah, nobody paid attention back then. Nobody's going to continue to pay attention until it's too late. Until it's too late. They're going to say, why didn't anybody warn us? Why didn't anybody warn us? And the banger's going to be like, somebody did. Somebody was telling you. You didn't listen. You didn't want to listen. You were too busy going to see crappy bands. Well, folks, we're right up against the end of another broadcast. I want to thank all of the affiliate stations for letting us be a part of their networks. If you haven't gone to the website in a long time, you might be very surprised of all the great stuff going on there. Go to the website, www.jlebang.com, and check it out there. We've got to get the hell out of here because we're really pushing time here. So thank you all for listening. And until the vibrations of my vocal cords reach your ears again, I'm John Lebang, thanking you all so much for tuning in all the time and giving me your support, the ones that do. And we'll see you next time.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff. Tune in again next week. Same time, same space, same station.
Resistance is futile.
I'd like to take a quick second here to tell you about our new sponsor, Quality One Painting. For interior and exterior painting needs, call Tom at Quality One, 313-982-2986. Tom will give you free estimates, senior discounts, and I can tell you from meeting the gentleman, he's one of the nicest guys on the face of the planet. So for a quality paint job with a professional attitude, call Tom at Quality One Painting. That's 313-982-2986. 313-982-2986. Quality One Painting.
Fans, do you need a video for your brand new song but don't have a lot of money? Then contact John Lebang. His reasonable rates, professional look, and fast turnarounds will help get that song off the ground. Contact him at jlebang.com.